Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lamarice and Bill Landis talking after Ohio State spring practice. I always want to make sure I have the numbers right. 10, right?
10, yeah.
11 is on Friday. 12 is next Monday. 13 is next Wednesday. 14 is next Friday. And 15 is the spring game on April 18th.
Got it.
Go to the spring game. It'll be exciting because it's a great way to be in Ohio Stadium and watch Ohio. What? Oh, what? No,
looking like rain. I hope it changes. It's Ohio. We're too many days out to worry about it.
That's why you got to dome Ohio Stadium, planting that flag. Secondary discussion. We talked with cornerbacks coach Tim Walton. We talked with safeties coach Matt Guerrieri. We talked with safeties Earl Little, Leroy Roker, Jaylen McClain, and cornerback Devin Sanchez. We spoke with Jermaine Mathews earlier this spring, but we haven't talked to Terry Moore, right?
No, I thought we would because we've been getting a lot of the transfers, right? We got Earl Little, we got
James Smith,
Christian
Allegro.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't get Terry Moore.
Yeah. So interesting conversations. It's again where there was three tables going at Ohio State. They just do a nice job getting people out there, but we didn't get personally to everybody we wanted to get to. God, we would have 14 questions for Leroy Roker, but we didn't get to him because you were at Earl Little and I was at Jaylen McClain. And we had a pretty long discussion outside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And then we had another discussion right here before we started recording. And often we are like, hey, let's not do the whole show before the show. But I felt like we needed to do the show before the show twice today because I was trying to figure out how mad you might get at me for my attempts to be confused by what is going on in the secondary. And I'm trying to figure out who is what. And
yes.
You said maybe there aren't answers to that question yet. And we're just trying to decide, are you going to get mad at me? Am I going to get mad at the world? What's going to happen here?
I do think there are not definitive answers. And a couple, even Matt Guerrieri in his 8 minutes that he spoke, I think multiple times said sorry, I don't have more specifics, but we're still trying to figure this out too. Which is not unheard of, especially when you have as many new players as Ohio State has. I do think, you tell me though, if all of these things can be true at the same time, I really like what's going on in the secondary. I think right now I would say the secondary is going to be the best part of this team. And also I have no idea what it's going to look like.
There are a lot of options at both spots, safety and corner, which we talked about on the depth show we did for our Substack subscribers last week, but it was confirmation here because, for instance, I asked Jaylen McClain, what do you think of the safety room? And he said, deep, right? I asked Tim Walton, the cornerbacks coach, who's your number 3 corner? And he's like, I don't know, dude, basically, to paraphrase. But I said, do you feel like you're searching? So we know Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez are locked in at the quarterback room. I said, do you feel like you're searching for that next guy or you have a lot of good options? And he was like, a lot of good options, instantaneous. And again, because I think he could be honest about that. If they're trying to light a fire, if they're no, we got to find it. Whereas it's well, it could be Dominick Kelly. It could be Cam Calhoun. It could be Timmons somehow in it. There's multiple names that are legitimate guys, and then clearly at safety there's a lot of that. So again, there's the difference of the conversations that we have when we don't know the answers to things, but should you be worried that we don't know the answers, or should you just be intrigued and curious? And I don't think there's much worry on this show today.
I'm not worried at all, really. Famous last words, I guess, but I'm very intrigued. I think there's just an opportunity here for not for the defense to look drastically different on the back end, but I think the way that they deploy people to be a little more specific and situational than maybe it was last year when you kind of didn't have to sub all that much unless you were going to dime. And now I think depending on who you're playing and how those teams try to attack you offensively and what particular skill set you might be looking for in a given game or a given situation, you might see some different configurations here beyond just the normal. We're putting a 6 defensive back on the field because this is a passing down.
Right. So why don't we start with your safety conversation, which was very important with Matt Guerrieri, just for some basics. Can we lay down some basics for the good folks out there? And again, thanks to everybody watching it on YouTube. Thanks to everybody listening on the podcast feed. We're just like, there's a lot of energy around Ohio State football right now. It's exciting. We're excited that you guys are here. You also can check out our Substack, BillandDougOSU.substack.com. You're gathering info, Bill. You're foraging. Right? You're out there. You're a gatherer. Yeah. You're scooping up stuff. And we sometimes forget to get the baseline on things because we're going to the 5th step. And it's like, hold on a second. And you did that.
I did do that. I after Matt Guerrieri was done, I chatted with him for an extra 2.5 minutes. Because I don't believe we've ever asked him or Matt Patricia or Tim Walton how they identify their safeties. And I didn't know, because Jim Knowles had bandit, adjuster,
adjudicator,
the
litigator,
master of ceremonies. Yeah, like I don't know. Like there was a lot going on there. So I didn't know if what this staff chooses to call them. So it's free safety and strong safety, not rewriting the book there, and the nickel position they call the star, and I think they call it the star because the star is. Or maybe why they don't just call it the nickel, because I do think, as we discussed before, like nickel sort of conjures a very specific type of player and job description, which is like a kind of a third corner that's out there to cover a speedy slot guy. But that's clearly not how Ohio State has utilized that role that Lorenzo Stile played last year and that Jordan Hancock played before him. So those are the 3 spots: free, strong, star. And then I followed up with like the 4 main guys. I think everyone would consider the 4 main guys in the room. Jaylen McClain back as a starter from last year. Earl Little Jr. in as a transfer. Terry Moore in as a transfer. And Leroy Roker is a 3rd-year guy stepping up. Top 4 guys at the position. Can all 4 of those guys play any 3 of those positions? And the answer was yes.
That's great information. Is the reason that they call it the star because it's the 5th DB and a star has 5 points?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't some revelation by me. You're like, yeah, Doug, 5 points on the star. Great job. Yeah. But this goes back my first year covering Ohio State football. I don't know if they had used the phrase before, but in 2005, Dante Whitner was the star. And I had not covered college football before. And I was like, I love college football. The star. Like, it was like, you may as well call that position jazz hands. I was like, let's go. Dante Whitner's the star. And then Dante Whitner was a star. But then there was like this thing that kind of had like this run of, well, maybe not a run, like of Glenville guys playing that spot. Like Jermaine Hines was kind of that spot. And it's interesting because back then, that conjured to me, that was a little more of a thumper. That's like, it was more of a safety linebacker hybrid who's a safety who's going to come down, have coverage responsibilities, but blow you up. And that's what Dante Whitner, take your head off, man. My God, Dante Whitner was a great player. And now, it can be that. It can be more coverage responsibility. That guy, and this is where my primary confusion, not confusion, maybe curiosity comes from, because that star position, that 5th DB, that guy who often, but not always, winds up lined up in the slot, can come out of the safeties room or it can come out of the corners room, right? His baseline, like, and it's just one of those things. If you're in the corner room, it's like, okay, you have to be able to cover. And if you're in the safety room, you're probably you've got to be able to cover, but maybe you're a little more rangy. Maybe you're a little bit more of a hitter if you're a strong safety. Like, it's not the exact same skill set. And so the skill set that applies to that 5th DB, that star position, can come from either place, but then your responsibilities can change in that position, right? Like, you really have to be kind of a special player to be able to do that. But it's like, which way do you lean? And sometimes, like, okay, we're going to call it the star now. Is that official? Like, when we discuss this from now on, we can just say free safety, strong safety, and star. Does that start right now?
That's what the safeties coach said. So yeah, I think so. There's also been an evolution with this, I think. And I actually, like, we've already spoken with Matt Patricia. I feel like if you ask Matt Patricia this question, you'd get a 6-minute answer on the evolution of the star position, because the star was like Saban's like 5th back end defender when he and Belichick were together in Cleveland. And I think at that time it was more of like, it's a Sam linebacker. And then over time that kind of evolved more into, instead of a safety linebacker hybrid, more of what you're saying, like a corner safety hybrid. So, because I had like, definitely I've heard like the star referred to more as like a linebacker type in the past than I have a safety or a corner type.
And we were having this conversation, right? 2014, what's Darren Lee? Well, Darren Lee is like a Sam linebacker, a strong side linebacker, but they also called him like the walkout backer that year with Chris Ash, which is like a backer who has to be able to cover. So like, and then what's the difference between Dante Whitner and Darren Lee and Pete Werner and Caleb Downs? And it's like, but you like not that much, because what can they all do? They all take your head off, and they all also have the speed and agility to cover you. So like, I don't know. And then like even Jordan Hancock grew into that. Like Jordan Hancock in 2024, he still might be the ideal guy that I think of that he was stout enough that he came from the corner room. He can cover, no doubt about it, but you don't have to take him off the field, because you know that he's physical enough to help against the run and do that. But then also, if you go to a dime look, you keep him on the field and drop him back as a deep safety too. Or even if you're not in dime, like he can do all 3 of those: stop the run, cover in the slot, play deep safety. I can't get away from that. Maybe I don't want to get away from that. I think Jordan Hancock was a great player. And then it's like, what ends up happening with me a lot is, are we sure the guy now in that spot can cover well enough? And that's where part of my curiosity comes from. If we're thinking about these 4 safeties who can play any of the 3 looks, do any of those 4 safeties really have that part of the coverage skill set that you're looking for, that you automatically get if that star guy comes out of the corner room? And that's, I have screenshots. You're going to kill me. Don't kill me. So I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. Ugh.
But I do think that's sort of like the lingering question, at least it is for me. And because like Earl Little Jr. came out of high school as a corner, but like hasn't really played corner in college. So
no.
And it doesn't mean he can't cover. And the other part of it too is like Ohio State doesn't play a lot of man. They play a ton of zone. So maybe that's like a less of an urgent need. But also like even if you're in zone, you got to carry routes vertically and stuff like that. So it's not like you can mask it entirely. So, but that is like, and that's why I asked Matt Carreri, like, you know, would you prefer to have a guy like a Hancock or a Styles who can kind of do both and you don't have to sub them out depending on what you're looking for, or is it okay to package? And he said, like, we'll do both. And I think the reason maybe they're a little more gung-ho about doing both this year is because they don't have like that specific skill set to do both within one person, maybe, unless that person is like Jay Timmons, is a true freshman.
Right. All right. Can we get to some screenshots? And so if you are listening on a podcast, we'll explain them. Okay. So you're not, it's okay. You didn't say yes. You okay with screenshots?
Sure. No, let's do it.
You're reluctant. All right. It says Doug. I put names in all capital letters. I mean, you should have seen. I was Googling how do you put names on a screenshot. It's okay. So we have. Oh, we both took it off at the same. We got a producer in here. We just both went back and forth taking the frame off. Okay. This is a 3-play sequence from the end of Indiana's first drive in the Big Ten championship game last year. It was an 8-play drive. So they got like a first down or two. This was the last first, second, and third down of this drive. So Ohio State winds up getting a stop here. This first play, they have 4 guys on the line of scrimmage. Can you see my pointer? No, you can't, can you? That's just on my screen. No. Oh, man, I'm really doing a good job pointing to myself here. 4 defensive linemen up on the line of scrimmage, 2 linebackers, and then they have the 5 DBs behind that. They have the 2 outside corners. They have Jaylen McClain, who is labeled as the deep safety between the hashes. Caleb Downs is about 7 yards closer to the line of scrimmage than Jaylen McClain, but he's the second deepest guy. And then Lorenzo Styles is lined up kind of in line with the linebackers, but he is over top Omar Cooper Jr., who's going to be a first-round receiver in this NFL draft. He's lined up over top of him in coverage on this. So these are the 3 safety spots. So McClain right here would be the free safety, Downs would be the strong safety, and Lorenzo Styles would be the star. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
This is a deep shot that they go to Omar Cooper Jr., again, first-round receiver, and Lorenzo Styles runs with him. So they wind up, I guess this is man on this play, even though you said like they don't do this a ton. He runs with him all the way down the field and breaks up the pass. It's a pretty darn good play by Lorenzo Styles. And actually, Omar Cooper Jr. got hurt on this play then. But Caleb Downs and Jaylen McClain kind of are both trailing the play. Like they're kind of around. Like if it had been completed, they might have made the tackle. But those were the responsibilities on this play. This is fairly straightforward free safety, strong safety, star position stuff. Yes?
It seems to be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then they
I feel like I'm on the witness stand.
Yeah. Is that not correct, Mr. Landis? Is it not true that you would call Lorenzo Styles the star in this situation? So this is second down. Second down, I waited until after the snap because there's a little rotation here. Jaylen McClain started deeper in the same spot between the hashes, but on the snap, Caleb Downs is dropping more, and Jaylen McClain comes up a little bit, but Lorenzo Styles is in the slot over a receiver just like before. This winds up being a run. None of the safeties wind up involved in the play, but it's like, again, a little bit of a disguise that McClain starts deeper in the free safety spot. You would probably call Downs the strong safety here, but then at the snap, they kind of switch, and the guy who's closer to the line of scrimmage and Downs goes back, and the guy who's farther away and McClain comes up. But it's pretty standard safety play and alignment here. Do you agree? Third down. They go to 60 Bs. This is their dime look. There are 2 deep safeties, split safeties deep. It's Lorenzo Styles and Jaylen McClain. So this is Lorenzo Styles playing a very different position here, right? He's coming out of slot coverage to deep safety coverage. They have 3 corners in the game. Jermaine Mathews is inside as the slot corner. Devin Sanchez comes in the game. He's at the bottom of the screen. Top of the screen is Davis Nigmanosin. Those are their 3 corners. And Caleb Downs looks like a linebacker here. And even like this is before the snap, right at the snap, he comes up on the line of scrimmage. And on this play, they have 6 DBs. They have 3 corners. They have 3 safeties. They have 2 linebackers in the game in Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. They only have 3 defensive linemen in the game. On the snap, Arvell Reese spies. Sonny Styles floats in the middle of the field and then goes with the linebacker in coverage. Caleb Downs takes the offset tight end in coverage. And then they play split safeties kind of zone behind the corners playing man. Right? I went and looked at it again. And then Caden Curry gets a sack. Caden Curry rips Zen Mahalski's arms off and gets a sack. So that's my point of all of this is to say, to see what Jaylen McClain, Lorenzo Styles, and Caleb Downs were doing in this set of 3 plays. Jaylen McClain's deep the whole time. Lorenzo Styles, 2 out of the 3 plays is over the slot receiver, and Caleb Downs is up. He's just more up more of the time in a strong safety look, just to define how they worked more often than not last year. Not every single snap, but is this an encapsulation of the primary alignments and duties of the safeties a year ago?
Yeah, I think so. So I was watching the plays as you were going through them. Okay. So the first one is not man.
Okay. Lorenzo winds up running with him. But okay.
Yeah, but it looks like it's cover 6. Okay. And
what's that?
So Lorenzo is over the slot, but he opens up his hips. He's playing zone. There's 2 vertical routes, and Jaylen McClain picks one, so that leaves the seam open. Because if you watch the play run, Lorenzo like kind of stops and looks behind him and says like, "Oh crap, there's nobody there," because Jaylen McClain has to get really wide because the number 1 receiver to that side went completely vertical. So it's actually really good. It's actually a really good play by Indiana, and actually really good coverage by Lorenzo Styles. So that's not man. And the reason I point that out is because the third down is man. The third down is 2-man, cover 2-man. And that's when they put Caleb Downs up to play man coverage. And they're not asking Lorenzo Styles. Yes, and they're not asking Lorenzo Styles to play man. Because I would assume that they think that.
And they have 3 corners in the game. They have, because Caleb's on the tight end, and there's 3 receivers in the game. Yeah. They have 3 corners in that dime look. So the 3 corners, Jermaine, Devin, and IGB are all playing man. Right.
Yeah, they're covering the receivers. Yeah. And I'm assuming Caleb's got a check there or whatever. Like if the tight end releases, then that's his man. If the tight end stays in, then Caleb can probably blitz or do whatever he wants to do. But then you have 3 receivers or 3 corners in man coverage on receivers, 2 deep safeties, one of which is Lorenzo Styles. But that sort of speaks to the complexity and the disguise and I don't know what everyone's going to do of this, because on 3 consecutive plays, you have Lorenzo Styles playing as a hook defender that's got to carry a route vertically. Then you have him playing as a hook defender who just sits down in the shallow zone, and then you have him as a deep half player and on third down. And it's like any one of their 3 safeties, I think, could have done that. But then when they had to have a safety cover man to man, it was Caleb Downs.
But not on a receiver.
Not on a receiver, right.
On a good tight end, but
really,
not.
Yeah, McClaskey's a good tight end, yeah.
But in that look on third down, when it was 3rd and long, they went to the 3 DBs to say, okay, if it's Omar Cooper Jr. and Charlie Becker and Elijah Surratt, we're not going to ask any of our 3 safeties to play man on those guys. And that's one of those.
It happens. It happened. I think it might have happened against Ohio when that really good slot receiver from Ohio got matched up with Lorenzo Styles and scored a touchdown. Like, it's not to say that they could never end up in a situation where that star has to play man coverage on a receiver. But I think they try to avoid that as much as possible. Or at least they did last year, because that's not, I don't think anybody would say that was Lorenzo's strongest area of his game. Maybe they were a little more comfortable doing it with Jordan Hancock the year prior before Matt Patricia got here. But that's still like to say, like, I don't know which of those main 4 safeties that we're talking about for this year, which of those 4 they'd be most comfortable putting in that position if they had to. Because like I don't think the answer is Jaylen McClain. I don't think the answer is Terry Moore, and I don't think the answer is Leroy Roker. I think the only possible answer is Earl Little, but even that I'm not truly certain of. So then you get into okay, now are you creating a package for Jay Timmons? Or are you bumping Jermaine Mathews inside and doing something else on the outside at corner? And that's where some of this like confusion and interchangeability comes in. And it's like confusing for us. It's not confusing for Ohio State.
No. We're just trying to figure out, like, they don't want to tell us, because they might not know the answer just because they're still evaluating skill sets. Mm-hmm. But they don't know the answer because they're like, I don't know what we're going to do. They're just like, but they're not walking us through the steps of it right now. Yeah. But the point of all of this is not to just show my lack of ball knowledge. I'm trying to figure out in 2026, who's going to be the equivalent of those situations. And so one last set of numbers to talk about this. Deep safety in the box, right? Up like with the linebackers, or in the slot, sort of like over that slot receiver. That's how PFF designates responsibilities, alignments when they break down what guys did. Mm-hmm. They all do everything. But last year, Lorenzo Styles, the thing he did most was be in the slot. The thing that Caleb Downs did most was be in the box. Mm-hmm. The thing that Jaylen McClain did most was be deep. And so, yes, they're interchangeable, but they also all clearly have sort of primary responsibilities. In 2024, the thing that Jordan Hancock did most was be in the slot, way more than anybody else. Jordan Hancock was 419 snaps in the slot. Caleb Downs was 160. Lathan Ransom was 82. In the box, it's what Caleb Downs did the most. And then deep safety, Ransom did it more than Downs. It's a little closer. Hancock did it sometimes. Ransom and Downs in 2024 were more interchangeable than Downs and McClain were last year.
Yes,
but even within that, even within that interchangeability, there is sort of like the primary responsibility. So what, again, this is a 20-minute preamble to the question of what you have outlined seems very helpful, which is they have 4 guys they believe in to play these 3 roles. Terry Moore, Leroy Roker, Earl Little, Jaylen McClain, as you said. And do you think in the end there will be some sort of rotation where those 4 guys maybe kind of play those 3 spots in a way that, of course, 3 of them have to be the starters, but the 4th guy is more than a backup?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So then who's what? The headline of this show is who is what. But if we're trying to say that more often than not, free safety, 2024 Lathan Ransom, 2025 Jaylen McClain. Strong safety, both years Caleb Downs. Star, 2024 Jordan Hancock, 2025 Lorenzo Downs. Who do you think will be
Lorenzo
the
Styles.
free? What did I say?
Lorenzo Downs would be a hell of a player.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah. Really fast Caleb Downs. Yeah.
Heck of a podcaster too. Lorenzo Styles. Who do you think? And I'm making you make your guess. I'm not taking I don't know. I know McCarery's saying I don't know. You're my safeties coach, Bill Landis. Okay. I'm demanding an answer. Remember, you're on the stand. Because shouldn't a podcast feel like a trial? Isn't that fun for everybody? Who do you think will be the primary deep safety, free safety, as Jaylen McClain was in 2025, as Lathan Ransom was in 2024?
I can't say I don't know. My guess would be a combination of Terry Moore and Leroy Roker.
Okay. Leroy Roker, during his short interview that neither you and I nor I got to, and we're very frustrated by that, was asked, like, what do you think you do well? And he described himself as rangy.
Yeah.
And Dan Hope offered the reminder that Mark Pantoni, Ohio State's roster guru, once upon a time made a comparison between Malik Hooker and Leroy Roker. And when we think about a free safety who can be deep and cover sideline to sideline, you can't think of somebody better than Malik Hooker. So it feels like, and you said Terry Moore did that pretty darn well at Duke in the past. So do those feel like 2 good options to be that free safety for Ohio State?
I do think so. I think Terry Moore, without a doubt, is a free safety. Just like based off of what he did the last time he was on the field in 2024, the strengths and weaknesses of that, and there was a lot of good. I think he's more of a roam in the middle of the field, deep kind of guy. Leroy Roker might have a little more like versatility in him. Mm-hmm. I'm slightly hesitant to like pigeonhole him as a guy who can only play the deep middle, but I would think that's probably what he does best. And actually, it's like funny if you think about it. Leroy Roker is a under the radar 3-star safety who was also a basketball player who's now just starting to break out as it goes into year 3.
Mm. You're planting your flag now on Leroy Roker, 1-year starter, first-round draft pick.
7 interceptions this year, All-American, first-round draft pick.
Do you feel good about Ohio State having good free safety play this season?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I also think that if for whatever reason, if Terry Moore hasn't played a while and he's rusty and it's taken a long time to knock that rust off, and everyone's excited about Leroy Roker, but it turns out, you know what? He's not that ready. Jaylen McClain was an awesome free safety last year, so you can just bump him back. And that's the thing.
I spent 12 minutes with Jaylen McClain and mentioned to him the idea that Caleb Downs said that, Jaylen McClain kind of sacrificed last year to allow Caleb Downs to roam. And I would talk about Jaylen McClain. Jaylen McClain's just like, what? Like, he smiled a tiny little bit when I mentioned that to him, but he's just like, we were a tandem. I'm doing my job. And if part of my job is to let Caleb do what he's got to do, great. I'm going to hold a Jaylen McClain thought for a second until we actually get to Jaylen McClain. Okay. I think that's the easy part of the answer. They have a deep safety. And the thing that you brought up as we were looking up all this stuff, Malik Hooker's a great example, but actually Malik Hooker, when you looked at PFF, did not play every single snap at free safety, at deep safety. But a guy who did, who might be a decent comparison here, is Jordan Fuller, right?
Jordan Fuller was like exclusively a deep safety. And that was when Ohio State was in the Jeff Hafley's the defensive coordinator. They're basically copying and pasting the Seattle Seahawks cover 3, cover 1 kind of single high stuff. No, like not even pretending to start in split safeties. We're just going to park Jordan Fuller in the middle of the field pre-snap because we have Chase Young and you don't. And I think back in 2016, there was a little more of some split safety stuff going on when Malik Hooker was playing, and obviously now there's more split safety stuff, so it's not quite as stark. Yeah.
Okay. Who's the strong safety? Who's the in the box safety that Caleb Downs has been the last 2 years?
If you have to slot guys specifically into these 3 roles, I would say Jaylen McClain, but I also think that maybe there's a little more interchangeability between strong safety and star with McClain and Little than probably there would have been with Downs and Styles last year.
Okay. But part of this is getting Jaylen McClain closer to the line of scrimmage more frequently to allow him to be a playmaker, yes?
I think so. Yeah. And I think he was a good safety blanket, I think, on the back end last year. But or at least I wonder anyway, if the best version of him is not getting to play a little more downhill.
And I do think to have Malik Hooker and Jordan Fuller as 2 examples of what that deep safety, that free safety can do. Malik Hooker is sideline to sideline. You can't throw a ball on me that I can't get to. And Jordan Fuller, as Jeff Hafley called him, was the eraser. It's like you're not running 70 yards for a touchdown. And you brought that up with Jaylen McClain. Jaylen McClain, like at the start of the Michigan game, made a couple tackles to make sure those 20-yard runs didn't turn into 60-yard runs.
Yeah, I think whatever it was, there was like early I think it was 3 runs that popped for Michigan that got out, and Jaylen McClain just like kind of ran all 3 to the sideline, and they were long runs, but they weren't scores. Yeah.
So like I think like Jaylen McClain probably was closer to Jordan Fuller, like I think incredibly trustworthy. The main thing you've got to be if you're going to be that deep safety guy is trustworthy, and then up you get to be a playmaker. And you have a chance to maybe have some tackles for loss. You get to have a chance to maybe blitz every now and then. And I do think if that's part of the design, I think we believed that before the portal started. Hey, one of the things we kind of expect is creating a situation so that Jaylen McClain is not just standing back. 442 snaps last year at deep safety for Jaylen McClain, 186 in the box, 70 in the slot. Right. So like 2/3 of the time he's deep safety. They want to let him be a playmaker. So that makes sense to me. And then when we talk about like, that's the Caleb Downs spot, right? That is the epitome of I'm up, I'm doing stuff. But the other thing that you, right, this is what Guerrero was talking about, and even Jaylen was talking about. The goal last year was to create safety roles that allowed Caleb Downs to move, to maybe freelance, to not know where where the offense is not going to know where he's going to be, because you had to maximize Caleb Downs. And maybe it is not the maximization of a single safety this year. That is the goal, but maybe what you think maybe they could play to play, move guys around to maximize. We're going to try to get Jaylen McClain free on this play, but then this play, we're going to try to do it with Earl Little, right? It's not going to be Downs all the time. Right.
I like the chief sort of like motivating factor, I think, for the defense as it pertained to like the back end last year was to make sure the teams weren't able to like isolate Caleb Downs and figure out what he was doing. And Ohio State was really good with all the disguises and the movement they did to make sure that didn't happen. And now and that's like a core tenet of their safety play. Like they want that disguise. That's not changing. But now I think like the benefactor of that player wise could be anybody rather than just sort of more often than not probably being Caleb Downs.
Right. Okay. I think that seems good. I think that seems right. I have been working on, I'm finally going to write it for Thursday on the Substack, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com, a story about the Iron Buckeyes and the 4 Iron Buckeyes from the winter off-season workouts were Jeremiah Smith, Garrett Stover, Brandon Ennis, and Jaylen McClain. So we've talked to all 4 of those guys now. I asked Jaylen McClain a couple questions about it, and I think I will write this in the story. I would like to suggest that they change the name of the Iron Buckeye. And I think they now should call it the Not Effing Around Crew. and that you have been inducted. You are now a member, and they can get them satin jackets, the Not Effing Around crew, because Jaylen McClain is the captain of the Not Effing Around crew. And Jaylen McClain, there, and in reporting this story a little bit, it helped clarify for me. I think I associated Iron Buckeye with like weight room excellence in the past, because it is an award that comes out of off-season workouts. It comes out of the weight room, but it's not about weightlifting. It is a seriousness of purpose award. And there's no football game to get ready for. Stuff is way off in the distance. And in talking to Mickey Marotti about this, they are trying to create a short-term goal for a long-term endeavor. And the short-term goal is to be recognized for this off-season work that you're putting in that isn't going to really show up until September. Jaylen McClain, like, it is, that guy is about nothing but business. He is like, it is striking to me how much Jaylen McClain is about business. And the guy, I mean, I will be honest, the guy that it reminds me of the, like, I am not here to mess around. I am here to get ready to play football. And every single thing I do at every moment of my life is to prepare me in the best possible way for that. It reminds me of AJ Hawk. It's like, what's Jaylen McClain? It's like, it is the Not Effing Around crew. Bang, got my jacket. That, like, and if that's what Iron Buckeye was, as much as, like, I think the fans respect Iron Buckeye, it was be like, oh, did you hear? Garrett Stover, he's in the Not Effing Around crew now. It's like, yeah, and Jaylen McClain is the leader of the Not Effing Around crew because he's been in it twice. It's like, I'm with that guy. Like, I'm with Jaylen McClain. Get with Jaylen McClain. And that guy will do. If you told Jaylen McClain your job is, okay, when the offense takes over on the 25-yard line, your goal, you have to go stand on the opposite end, 75 yards away from the play. And we designed a new position. It's called the Don't Let Them Score position. And you have to stand on the goal line. And if there's a 74-yard play, make a tackle at the one. He'd be like, sir, yes, sir, I'll do it. And if they said you have to stand an inch from the center and try to leapfrog over the center at the snap and try to rip the snap out of the quarterback's hands on the center quarterback exchange, he'd be like, okay, I'm going to go practice jumping over people. Like, that guy is so locked in, and I am eager to see him have an opportunity to do things other than be the deepest guy in the field.
Yeah, I think you almost have to give it to him, right? Like, and like, it's not that being the deepest guy in the middle of the field is an unimportant job. Watch a team score a couple 40-yard touchdowns, and then we'll figure out how important that job is.
You watch one banana angle, you'll pay a gazillion. It's like, can I pay $4 million in NIL for a safety who won't allow this 80-yard touchdown run? Yeah, for sure.
Right. But Jaylen McClain is just like the kind of guy that, well, because what we're talking about, like, you move down closer to the line of scrimmage, you're going to be around the ball more. You're going to have an opportunity to make more plays. And he just seems like he is the guy who will maximize whichever position you put him in. Mm-hmm. So, like, why not put him a little down closer to the action? Give him a chance to get his hand on the ball, maybe tip some passes, maybe pick some passes off, cause some fumbles, the way that Caleb Downs was doing. Like, there's a lot to tap into there that I don't think he's primarily or needs to exclusively be a guy who's just playing a deep middle of the field all the time. I think he'd almost be wasting a little bit of something in that way if you only kept him in that spot. So I'm excited to see that. And I think they want to unleash a little bit of that, not only because he can do it well, but also as like a, thanks for doing your part when you were a sophomore and we had the best safety in the country. And like, now it's your turn kind of thing. Right. Yeah. Cause who knows, this could be his last year. Like, I don't know that he's a 4-year player. He could be a 2-year starter and be gone. So we'll see what it looks like. But did you see, while you're talking Iron Buckeye, by the way, what Earl Little Jr. said?
No.
About the weight room?
Oh,
somebody asked him difference between Ohio State and Alabama. And he said, we didn't compete like this in the weight room in Alabama.
I mean, I'm not saying the former Alabama guys coming to Ohio State are trying to get Kalen DeBoer fired, but I don't know, man. But I guess he was there for a little bit of Saban too. So Saban lost his fastball.
He left after Saban. No, he left. He was there for 1 year. He was a freshman. Is that right? Yeah, he was a freshman for Saban. Saban left.
Okay.
I think I have this right because he was the same recruiting class as Caleb Downs, right? He's a fourth year guy, right? He's not a 2022 guy, is he?
No, he's a fourth year guy. But was he at Alabama 1 year or two?
No, okay. He's a 2022 guy. So he was at Alabama for 2 years. 2 years of Saban. Saban retired.
Okay.
Then he went to Florida State.
Okay. So he's not saying anything about Kalen DeBoer. He's just saying Nick Saban lost his fastball. Okay, great. Also, we'll accept that. And also, again, a free swords for any Bama guy who comes and talks about how Bama ain't this. Who's the slot? Who's the star? So if that, like, Earl Little is left, and here is where, to be kind to myself, again, we will not call it confusion. We will call it curiosity. Earl Little last year at Florida State by PFF played 376 snaps at free safety. He played 226 snaps in the box, and he played 65 snaps in the slot. And he is the guy who's left to be most like, not exactly like, the Jordan Hancock, Lorenzo Styles position, where Jordan Hancock played 419 snaps in the slot in 2024, and Lorenzo Styles played 223 there last year, but that was like double where he played anywhere else. And is that actually what Earl Little's going to do?
I, for the sake of the conversation, sure. I don't. So, like, he was asked today, Wednesday, "Hey Earl, what are you doing? Where are you playing?" And he said, "They have me as a moving piece. I'm not at just one spot."
So that sounds more like Caleb Downs, but then can we have two Caleb Downs? Like, can the answer be so if we're comparing it to 2025, there's a Jaylen McClain that's not Jaylen McClain, but then instead of a Caleb Downs and Lorenzo Styles, there's two Caleb Downs. And is that okay? There is no Lorenzo Styles.
I think so. Yeah.
And there is no Jordan Hancock, because Earl Little and Jaylen McClain are going to sort of be in the box as the star, sort of over the slot, but we're not, like, it's going to be a lot of, right? You look like you're over the slot at the snap, but then it turns out that you drop and a linebacker comes over, and we're in a thing that we're not, but yet if that play with Omar Cooper Jr. that we talked about, that you said it is zone, it's zone. Not man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yet the situation called for Lorenzo Styles to try to turn and run with Omar Cooper Jr. Would Earl Little or Jaylen McClain be able to turn and run with a first-round receiver in that situation if it happened in 2026?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I can't. I'm trying to think if, like, Jaylen McClain was asked to do that, like, even once last year.
Right.
And there's nothing that's sticking out to me. Earl Little probably. Right, just because he has, like, a little bit of that corner background, he has kind of moved around some.
Really has not played out, like, has not played a ton of corner snaps in college, though. Like, the corner background, it, like, came in that way, but really hasn't played that way.
Lorenzo Styles didn't either.
Yeah, but Lorenzo Styles runs like a 4.2. So I'm curious, like, so, like, so this is, again, a curiosity. I'm not doubting. I'm just super curious. But if the answer is there is no Lorenzo Styles and nobody can be Caleb Downs, but Jaylen McClain and Earl Little can both be pieces of Caleb Downs, and we promise you we're not going to get smoked by slot receivers. We got this. And it's like, okay.
And I guess it could be like, if you're playing a team that has a slot receiver that does scare you, for lack of a better word, maybe you throw an entirely different secondary configuration out there. And because I think what the Guerreri said, they can do packages of 3 safeties and 2 corners, and 2 corners and 3 safeties. Like, they can get a little funky with it, I think, if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you're, I don't know, like, on USC, I don't say they're playing USC last year, and like what Kai Lemon is on the scout sheet, right? Like maybe that's a game where Lorenzo doesn't play as much, right? And you're playing Jermaine Mathews inside more because the matchup sort of dictates it.
Right. So that's what I am curious about. That's what I am curious about, because the other part of this is if they have 4 safeties who are starting quality for these 3 spots and they can all move around and do those things, like the second team star is a freshman cornerback in Jay Timmons.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Right.
That's how, like if I were putting it on paper, yeah, that's how I would put it. Yeah.
And Jay Timmons, this is what Tim Walton. So this is another one of those things that just Doug's curiosity gets piqued. Jay Timmons is with the cornerbacks, but then is playing that star position. Whereas Earl Little and Jaylen McClain are with the safeties, and then will end up playing that star position. Mm-hmm. Jay Timmons, people have talked about him. Jeremiah Smith talked about him, said he's going to be great. Tim Walton on Jay Timmons, very competitive, great skill set, good toughness, can cover, good hip fluidity, good blitzer, poised. He takes coaching. He loves to compete. Football's important to him. Pleasantly surprised with his progress. So like Jay Timmons is here, and you've been told Jay Timmons is here. And like that sounds to me like that sounds exactly what you want potentially in a star. That's more Jordan Hancock, right? And it's just that like,
yeah.
Right. So it's all, I get the point is different types of guy can be in here. They'll play to people's strengths, that kind of thing. But I'm just super curious to see how it ends up working out, which is why I wanted to start with the screenshots of how they played it last year, because it's not exactly square peg, square hole for me. I think there's reasons to have lots of optimism about those 4 safeties, but I'm still curious about the fit.
As am I. And I think like I would probably bet right now on April 8th that there's a Jay Timmons package to start the season. And then it's like, boy, that Jay Timmons package looks pretty good. Maybe we should add a little more to it. And then all of a sudden it's like Jay Timmons is one of our 5 best defensive backs. And then who knows where you go from there. Like I think that some of this could be fluid throughout the year, where like you have these 4 safeties that you feel really good about. I think you have 3 corners, Mathews, Sanchez, probably Dominick Kelly. There's like guys who can play on the outside, because I don't think Jay Timmons, for as much as everyone says about him, he's, as we said before, he's 5'11". I just don't think he's going to play on the outside. So you have like 3 outside guys, and then Jay Timmons is like the wild card who can kind of float between both rooms. And that leads you to having a ton of options that I think is exciting. It's going to be pretty fun. I think Ohio State's pretty fired up about, but then also creates this sort of situation we're in at the moment where it's like it'd be great to pinpoint like this is what it's going to look like. But I don't think anyone, Ohio State's coaches included, are in a position to say that right now.
Yeah. Talking about corners. So is there anything else you want to, good conversation with Matt Guerrieri, anything else you want to cover? Sorry, I went 45 minutes on safety. I'm put safety confusion in the headline of this. Anything else from Matt Guerrieri talking about these safety options other than like people are like freshman Blaine Bradford? They're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That guy's a hitter.
Guerrieri was not asked about him specifically, but I know some of the players talked about him. I thought it was interesting that like Guerrieri talked a lot about communication, the importance of communication at the safety position, and how their best communicator obviously was Caleb Downs. And when he looked at the room and what they had coming back and where they were going to be needing to improve the most, like that was the area he circled, like getting guys on the same page, making sure everyone's aligned, making sure guys are talking the right way, communicating the right information to each other. And it reminded me of like a moment in Saturday's Student Appreciation Day scrimmage when I think the starters were out there. So I think it was Terry Moore and Jaylen McClain were like kind of ended up on a specific play as like kind of like 2 deeper safeties, and Guerrieri's like yelling at him from the sideline to one of them, like, you're the field, he's the boundary, you guys got to talk and make sure you're on the same page. So like they're really harping on it. But then after Matt Guerrieri said that on Wednesday, well after practice was over, Matt Patricia is standing over by the benches by the door that leads to the locker room, and sitting on the benches are Caleb Downs, who's still around, and Jaylen McClain. And Matt Patricia is like barking out safety calls, like mimicking being a safety, doing all the hand gestures. And So like he says something, Caleb Downs says something, Jaylen McClain just like nodding along the whole time. And it's like, here are these, like, here's the architect of the defense. Here's the most important defensive player from last year. And they are imparting their wisdom onto Jaylen McClain after the 10th practice of the spring. And I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, you were like kind of looking over at that. And I was like, what's Landis looking at? It's like, I'm absorbing defense. Please leave me alone. Jaylen McClain did say he's working on being more vocal. He said Sonny and Caleb were the lead communicators on the team, so I'm working on being more vocal on and off the field. It's something I had to work on. Like, it doesn't come as naturally for him, for the not effing around crew. Like, he's kind of the strong, silent type. All the coaches on the staff are challenging me to work on it and get better at it, is what Jaylen McClain said about that. So, okay. Corners, I said to Tim Walton, like, okay, if it's Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez and you needed a third corner on the field, like tomorrow, who would it be? And he basically told me to get lost because he's like, we're still trying to figure that out. But Dominick Kelly, second-year player, transfer from Georgia. It feels like a lot of people think like it would be him. And here's what Tim Walton said about Dominick Kelly. What he's showing: consistency and discipline, which is like, oh, he's caught the coach's attention. Yeah. Right. Then it's like, this is a young guy. And he's all like, Ryan Day talks about it all the time. It's like, well, you're showing us flashes. You have to be consistent. And the first word Tim Walton said about Dom Kelly was consistency. We know what we're getting every day. He's level-headed. He's a smooth operator. And every day we know what we get out of him. He's smart and he understands the game. So, like, it's like, okay, he's a third corner, right? Like, and this is one of those where, like, you're curious, like, could it even be some sort of rotation? It's interesting. So he's talking up the young guys on Devin Sanchez. He was like, we need him to be dominant. And he said, like, the first week of spring practice was just okay for Devin Sanchez. And then he said, now the last couple of weeks have been better. And Devin Sanchez, when he spoke on Wednesday, said, like, he wants to win the Thorpe Award. He wants to be an All-American. He said he was timid last year. He's playing with more confidence. So, like, that's Tim Walton's first thing he said about Devin Sanchez wasn't praise. It was, we need him to be dominant. Because
did your antennas go up?
My antennas. It's like they're because they know this guy can be great. Yeah. They know he can be great.
Yeah.
And then Jermaine Mathews, Tim Walton said that last season didn't end the way he wanted to. So it's like this one. So like the two most locked in corners. One is a guy who they're trying to, right? You've got All-American potential. Let's go get it. And then Jermaine Mathews said he's the leader of the room.
Yeah.
But yet he's coming off like a rough end of the season. And like we already talked to Jermaine Mathews, but like that's like an interesting thing. And then there's this group of Jordan Thomas who caught our eye the first two practices. Apparently, Tim Walton said he's been maybe not out at every single practice. He said he's been down was the phraseology he used. So it's like, okay, maybe he's been limited a little bit. And then you talk about Dominick Kelly, you talk about Cam Calhoun, who's a veteran transfer from Michigan, Utah, and Alabama. And there's just opportunity there, but obviously it's like keep your eye on Dominick Kelly.
Yeah, I think the Kelly Calhoun thing will be interesting to monitor because game tomorrow, obviously the two top corners are Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez. And while I think the room is interesting and deep and will be competitive, I don't think that'll change very much. So then what happens at that third spot? And I think like the fact that you have a true sophomore who feels like he's on the rise, who has his stuff together, and a senior who's got some decent experience, played really well, like the one full season he got as a starter. That's pretty good, I think, in terms of depth and in terms of options. And I'm excited to see how that plays out. I also like just some of it is what we got to see, like a small sample size in the practice on Saturday, combined with like some of the video clips that have come out of practice. And also just how Devin Sanchez was talking on Wednesday. I think he might have it. Like I think we're about to see him take off.
Yeah. I think that's probably right. And I, again, tried to ask Tim Walton. We saw Jermaine Mathews move inside at times last year. Again, from our screenshot, this is them healthy in the Big Ten championship game. And God, production values here. Can't get it off. Wait, there it is. You see Jermaine Mathews. We have the screenshot up again. Jermaine Mathews inside. Devin Sanchez is wide. He's to the field, and then IGB's to the boundary, right? They're on the outside, and Jermaine Mathews. So, like, from a corner perspective, I was trying to ask, we saw Mathews move inside at times last year. Are you still comfortable with that? Would you prefer that he stay outside? And he said, we're still moving guys around. We're still working things out. But I'm curious, like in this setup, if they have 3 safeties on the field in 2026, if you had to guess right now, would it be more likely that it would be Devin Sanchez and Dominick Kelly outside and Jermaine Mathews in the slot? Or maybe Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez outside and Jay Timmons in the game as a slot guy in a situation like this?
That's a really good question, because I think that when I say like a Jay Timmons package, that's kind of what I have in mind.
Okay.
Tomorrow, this configuration, I think it could change by
inside.
Yeah. I think it could change by August, because they did a little bit of that at the Student Appreciation Day practice, and Kelly and Sanchez were outside and Mathews was in the slot. So they're working on that at least a little bit. I don't think Sanchez or Kelly will play in the slot. I think they're both like pretty like tall, long corners. Like you want that on the perimeter. And clearly they think Jermaine's interesting, because I think Jermaine has like some safety instincts to him a little bit. Right? Like I think he could be like a version of a Jordan Hancock or a Lorenzo Styles maybe.
Yeah.
And clearly they think that like playing inside, everyone, like the hardest thing you do as a defensive back is playing the slot because of the 2-way go and the speed you're dealing with. You don't have a natural boundary there via the sideline. So my guess is that they would probably roll with Jermaine inside in that situation for right now, but I'm very much on alert for here comes Jay Timmons. And then if that were the case, then it's probably Jermaine and Devin outside with Timmons in the slot.
Yeah. And that really, again, that's maybe less about Jermaine Mathews and more it's like a Jay Timmons versus Dominick Kelly situation. And it just feels like maybe they want to get Dominick Kelly in games, right?
Yeah. And I also, like, it could be a situation, and this is where it gets like potentially like pretty funky. If you really want to maximize your coverage ability, then you have Kelly, Sanchez, Mathews, and Timmons on the field, and you take one of the safeties off, right?
Right. But if you have 4 safeties you love who are all doing everything right, is your dime package a chance to get more safeties on the field or actually to get fewer safeties on the field? Like, I don't know. Right. But again, if you have 8, they have a chance to have like 8 guys they really believe in on the back end, I think.
Yeah.
The 4 safeties we're talking about, Sanchez, Mathews, Dominick Kelly, and potentially Jay Timmons. And that's like,
and Cam Calhoun.
Believe in.
It's like 9, really.
Cam Calhoun, who's been around, Blaine Bradford, who's a baller, like just it's what we talked about before. There's a real chance. And I think the headline of this is like you saying that this has a chance to be the strength of the team.
I really think it does.
End of the defense.
Yeah, I think it does. I don't like, and it's not because I think they're deficient elsewhere, but if you just survey what they have back, what they've done on the portal, I think it's definitively the strength of the defense. And then you have a conversation, I guess, about the secondary versus like the receiver, quarterback, passing attack combination.
And I will tell you that the distance between you saying that and Fahim Delane, Aaron Scott, and Bryce West just went in the portal. Yeah. I mean, it's just a reminder, I think, for everybody in this new era. Those were 3 youngish, right? 2 third-year guys and a second-year guy that you could have projected certainly at least 2 of those 3 guys as starters. Like if the portal didn't exist and you just had to stay with we might be looking at a world, right, where Fahim Delane is probably a starting safety. Bryce West is maybe in contention for the star stuff. And Aaron Scott is like in the Dominick Kelly role as the 3rd outside corner, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And they lost all those guys. Fahim Delane to LSU, Aaron Scott to Oregon, and Bryce West to Wisconsin. These guys aren't dropping down to go to FCS schools. And we're sitting here saying the collection of secondary guys Ohio State has might make it the strength of the team. It's just the way the world works now.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. And I think like there was a question asked about McInerney that sort of by Berm that sort of he pretty much said it straightforward. Like you had some just tough decisions to make on who you were going to pay for and not pay for in the secondary. And like they chose to pay for Leroy Roker. So like, I think in an ideal world, they would have loved to keep all those guys, but some tough decisions had to be made. And then they did a pretty good job of backfilling once those guys decided to leave and perhaps upgraded.
Yep. So, okay. Anything else you want to say about the secondary?
No. I was trying to decide if I wanted to predict back-to-back Thorpe Awards for Ohio State.
Oh!
I just don't know who it would be. I don't know who it would be. I don't
Blaine
know who
Bradford.
their best DB is.
Yeah.
Who do you think their best DB is going to be?
Jaylen McClain.
Yeah, I would say McClain or Sanchez.
Yeah. What do you think of the not effing around crew? Would you wear a satin jacket that said that?
What? But satin to me is effing around. Like you want leather.
Oh, okay. Do you think we should attempt? My last attempt to bestow a nickname, the landlord on Davis Igbinosun was like, somebody already has that nickname. Get away from me, old man. So like that didn't go great. Could we call the entire secondary the not effing around crew? Because I started off saying like we should call the Iron Buckeyes that, but what if it's like this group of guys, like because Jaylen McClain's not, but like Devin Sanchez is not effing around. I don't think Earl Little is here to eff around. Like
he's definitely not. Yeah,
Blaine Bradford is not about effing around. Like this is the not. Now Jermaine might sometimes. Jermaine might.
But I don't think talking trash means you're not serious.
No, that's true. So I don't know. That's it's fraught. It's probably maybe just best to keep it between us and our few thousand friends here, rather than try to present it to these guys. I probably think I'm out of the business of 50-year-old men attempting to give nicknames to 20-year-old college football players. So
I thought landlord was really good, and I'm still bummed out that Davison didn't want to embrace that.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. So this is Wednesday. On Friday, running backs and special teams. So that will be practice 11, and that's who we will speak to afterwards. So we'll be back then. And I just will say I put out the bat call. Dane Brugler, friend of the program, had released The Beast, his NFL draft guide at The Athletic. Came out today, Wednesday, April 8th. And when we talked to him at the combine, he was like, let me get through The Beast. And then he said he'd come on. So I said, congratulations on getting The Beast done. We'd love to have you on the Bill and Doug Show. So hopefully we'll have Dane Brugler sooner than later talk about some of these Buckeyes in the draft. And then, a bunch of other stuff. Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. You had a really good, interesting breakdown about offensive line continuity that went up the other day. We'll have this Iron Buckeye story coming. Lots of other stuff, and we appreciate everybody who's over there. We appreciate everybody who's here. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.